Hey everyone, today we are going to be taking a look at the new Xbox Series S. So I finally managed to get my hands on one today and I'm very excited to talk to you guys about this new Xbox. Anyways, let's go ahead and jump into the video. So the Series S is by far the smallest Xbox Microsoft has made. When this thing was first unveiled, I was surprised to see this cheaper version of the next generation Xbox. It promises to play games at 1440p at 60 frames per second. For $299, that sounds like an awesome deal, honestly. On paper, the Series S looks like a budget entry next generation system. The Series S shares most of its internal components with the larger Series X. Some of those features include load time improvements, a promise of up to 120 frames per second on certain games, and overall games just running smoother on this console. The main difference is gonna be the GPU, obviously, between the X and the S, which means that most people can just hook this thing up to a 1080p monitor or TV. This is definitely a console for those who do not care about 4K. I do want to emphasize that here. Let's start with a quick unboxing. So I've got to say the design of the box is pretty cool. We're told here that this thing can play games at 1440p right off the bat on the box and other various info, but more on that later. Once we jump into the box, we can see here that Microsoft has done a really good job of packing this Xbox. I mean, come on, look at how well put together this packaging is. Anyways, so in the box, you obviously get the console itself. That is the first thing that you're going to be seeing. And you, of course, get a high-speed HDMI cable and a power adapter cable as well. Thank goodness there's no power brick. Okay, so we've got some documentation and here's the controller. I love this new controller, by the way. It just feels good and looks great too. Something that I really need to talk about is the size of this thing. It's tiny compared to other Xbox consoles. Right off the bat, I noticed that there are plenty of vents for cooling this thing. Unlike the Xbox Series X, I think that this console looks better in either vertical or horizontal orientations. At the back of the console, we've got two USB ports, an Ethernet port, one HDMI 2.1, and a storage expansion slot. Oh yeah, and at the front, there is a single USB port and no disk drive, of course. Since this is a digital-only console with no disk drive, I wanted to point out that the Series S unfortunately does not support Wi-Fi 6, and there's no USB-C ports on the console. Not that I really care for any of those things because I don't even have Wi-Fi 6 yet, nor do I think that I'm going to get that anytime soon. And also, most of your Xbox One accessories will work with this new console. Like my Logitech racing wheel, for example, it works with no issues whatsoever. While we're talking about the design and features of the Series S, I wanted to touch base with the way this thing keeps itself cool. I was playing Forza Horizon 4, then I switched back to The Witcher 3, and I've only heard a gentle, little tiny hum from the fan. Nothing crazy like the PS4, for example. As far as for this controller, it's very similar to the Xbox One version. It does have the updated D-pad, of course, textured grips, and the new share button. Oh, and it does have a USB-C port now, which is fantastic. Also, this thing still runs on AA batteries. At this point, I'd really like to see Microsoft start shipping these with a rechargeable battery, just like the PS4 and PS5 controllers, but that's just me. Much like the Xbox Series X, the Series S also has more CPU power and a much faster SSD. With 4 teraflops of GPU performance to improve existing games, I've gotta say the load times are one of my favorite new features of this Xbox. For example, I was able to load Forza Horizon 4 in about 40 seconds to get into racing, which is pretty amazing. Also, from my experience, it seems like games that are currently locked at 30 frames per second will most likely maintain these frame rates more reliably than, say, the Xbox One S. For example, The Witcher 3 has not been optimized for the Series S yet, but it feels a bit smoother and menus are really responsive thanks to the new solid-state drive. As far as for the games that have been optimized for the Series S, Forza Horizon 4 runs beautifully on the Series S, maintaining 60 FPS at 1080p, not at the 1440p target that Microsoft promised for this console, but it is an improvement overall. I mean, Forza Horizon 4 ran at 30 frames a second on the Xbox One S, so it is an improvement. But see, here's my disappointment. Unfortunately, most games will run as if they were Xbox One S games, and they won't really benefit from enhancement Microsoft made with, say, the One X. I can only see why, because the Series S isn't really targeting 4K gaming, and it seems like most of the One X enhancements were geared toward 4K resolution and HDR. But games such as Gears 5 and Dirt 5 have the ability to run at a smooth 120 frames per second on the Series S. From my experience, these games were running pretty smoothly, and I'd like to see more developers come out with patches to allow their games to be run at a high frame rate. These optimized games and the ability to push out 120 Hz really demonstrates the potential for this new Xbox. There are some games that support the 120 Hz mode, like Dirt 5, but a game such as Forza Horizon 4 not being able to run at 1080p 120 Hz really bothers me. It bothers me because the marketing behind this console is that it can play games at 120 frames per second. I mean, I don't really care if it's running at 1080p as long as the game can hit 120 frames. It's just odd to me that a game such as Forza Horizon 4 that is created by Microsoft Studios can't run it at 120 Hz. However, there is a trend here, and that trend is that next-gen Xbox games do offer more flexibility for graphics options. I honestly see this as more of a 1080p console, and it looks like that is what most people will be using it for. However, I'm just really surprised that some games that Microsoft made can hit the 1440p mark or can't hit the 1080p mark at 120 frames per second. You only get 512 gigabytes in this console for the storage, but when you actually go into your settings and look at the storage, it's only 364 gigabytes. And that's okay. I'm able to fit maybe 6 to 8 games depending on what I am downloading. Oh, and Microsoft has promised that the Series S game install sizes will be 30% smaller than the Series X. I really hope that's the case. If you do run out of storage at some point, you can offload games onto a USB storage device and then switch them back to the internal storage in the system. But I honestly think that most people would just benefit from the expandable storage option instead. Now, here's the problem. The only option as of now is the 1 terabyte expansion card priced at $219. To me, that is insane. If you combine the price of this console and the expansion card, it comes out to nearly $520. I think at that price point, you might as well just get an Xbox Series X instead. Honestly, Microsoft either needs to come out with a Series S with 1 terabyte of storage, or maybe give us more size options that cost less. Just keep in mind, either option, whether you're getting a hard drive or the expansion card, it is going to cost you more money. Now, the thing that is very impressive to me is the new quick resume feature, thanks to the new solid state drive that is in this system. And honestly, it works fairly well. In my testing, I was able to switch between Forza and The Witcher 3 with no issues, and it was honestly pretty fast. However, it seems like some games aren't able to use the quick resume feature just yet. It does seem like some of these games haven't been updated to support this yet. While I was playing Forza, I switched over to Minecraft and loaded into a brand new world. Then I switched back to Forza. Quick resume worked flawlessly. However, as soon as I went back to Minecraft, the entire game reloaded, and it seems like this feature doesn't work with every game as of right now. As far as for the rest of the software, the Series S has the same dashboard as the Series X. It definitely feels like it performs faster, and I think that the UI and the way that the system works, it's pretty similar to what we've already seen from Microsoft on the Xbox One. Okay, so to conclude what we've talked about today, I think that this thing has a lot of potential. I do love the design, and I honestly think that this console delivers a great value for $299. If you currently have an original Xbox One, you'll definitely notice the benefits of load times, higher frame rates, and overall smoother gameplay in most games. It honestly just feels like upgrading a PC if you move from, say, the Xbox One to the Series S. I say that because accessories work, such as controllers and race wheels. Games are also upgraded and many will run really well on this new console. However, I do want to point out that this will be good or even a significant upgrade for many games, but don't expect to buy this thing for the latest and greatest graphics. I think for right now, this is a 1080p console. Microsoft has talked about how this thing is designed to play games at 1440p at 60 frames per second. But see, that might be true in the future, but for right now, lots of third-party developers are targeting that 1080p mark, and even Microsoft Studios chose to optimize and target 1080p instead of 1440p. I think that a 1440p resolution would look crisper and even far better upscaling to 4K if you really wanted to push this console. There is clearly potential for the Series S to deliver 1440p gaming. However, it looks like the vast majority of gamers who will buy this thing won't even use a 1440p display. I think that 1080p gaming is okay, but I really would like to see more games take advantage of this new console and push games to 1440p or even 1080p at 120 Hz. Anyways guys, that is all I have for you today. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. I'd really appreciate it if you would hit that like button and subscribe for more videos like this. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya!